A pleasant good evening. My name is Christopher Jones. I'm joined by Sherrod Duncan, and we are coming to you live from the APNU campaign headquarters here in Sophia. And of course, we are here to update you as it relates to the information emanated from the Ghana Elections Commission, fake information being peddled by the People's Progressive Party Civic, propaganda about swearing in, and so forth. Colleague
Projections as
Sherrod
well.
Duncan.
Yeah, folks, a very good evening to each and every one of you. I'm privileged to be here with my colleague Christopher Jones, bringing to you this update. Just some signposts we want to alert you on, as Chris mentioned, some of the projections that are being made, some of the talk of swearing in. You know, this is a government who, from past experiences, love secret swearing-ins and having to do that fast. And we believe that if you're confident of any so-called victories, you don't have to go that route at all. But some of the things that we've been hearing are really unacceptable, and we can start perhaps with the well, before we get there, maybe some of what we saw yesterday. While there was smooth voting, and some of that has been some of what precipitates that is the fact that we've had historic low turnout, low voter turnout. We have had that. It was not just restricted to APNU supporters, but one sense the national mood is one of low voter turnout. I think they're telling us it's either region 10 or it's Linden in particular. They saw a 33%, at least when I was looking at the figures, percent voter turnout, and that is historic. So it has been tremendously low. Slow voted, a slow moving day because of the poor voter turnout, and several issues presenting themselves at different polling stations. And we heard Susan Rodriguez's name calling a lot yesterday. She seemed to have had a very important role yesterday, whether it was trying to steer people to vote a certain way in the precincts of polling stations, or trying to exclude others from voting a certain way in polling stations too. So we were looking at all of that. We were also following late last evening what persons were alleging were ballot box being moved without due escorts. This is police and party agents. We were also following the fact that folks told us, communicated to us, that several ballot boxes arrived at different locations without the requisite seals on them as well. And so we were following all of that information, and not necessarily just want to come on and create panic, but ensuring that there was veracity to some of that information.
Correct. And for viewers, just to alert, as we were coming on air, the last update we got from the Ghana Elections Commission is that GCOM is currently still perusing the SOPs South Georgetown. The areas as it relates to the east coast of Demerara and east bank of Demerara, those areas, those information have not been inputted into the Ghana Elections Commission's information. Therefore, all of the information that you're currently seeing via some PPP aligned news entity are nothing else than misinformation. And we call upon the general public to remain vigilant as we await the outcome from the Ghana Elections Commission, which is the sole agent that could provide that information. As well to the Ghana Elections Commission, as it relates to reports coming out from Georgetown, GCOM has acknowledged that they've made several mistakes. Rather, their poll agent, is it PO, presiding officers, the presiding officers in several stations across various regions. The Ghana Elections Commission had called in our chief scrutineer, indicating to her that several mistakes have been made, and they're seeking ways in which that they can make those correction. A team of lawyers, along with the chief scrutineer, they've left, headed down to the Ghana Elections Commission to work out how they will resolve those issues. But again, like we said when we come on air, no declaration has been made by the Ghana Elections Commission, particularly as it relates to results emanated from region number 4. As we speak, the count is being done in South Georgetown. They're still to look at North Georgetown. They're still to look at the east bank of Demerara, as well as the east coast of Demerara. So again, no information that you're currently seeing has been made official by the Ghana Elections Commission. And we ask that you continue to be vigilant while at the same time restraining yourself from the propaganda that is emanating from the People's Progressive Party Civic. And you know,
Correct.
Sharon, even when we look at historic results from previous elections, in these elections, the People's Progressive Party Civic has lost Region 7, 8, and 9.
Yeah.
Therefore, if you've lost 7, 8, and 9, how could you get more seats than you had before?
Yeah, it's interesting the way that they've gone about this. But before we get to that and to that part of the discussion, the leader of the Partnership for National Unity and presidential candidate for the partnership spoke today on several of these issues. We wanted you to get some of that if you didn't get a chance to look at it earlier today, and then we're going to come back and we're going to wade through some of these very, very important matters. So if the guys are ready, we are going to take that because what Chris was venturing into is a very, very important area, and some of it just defies logic. But then when you're dealing with the PPP, what do you expect?
Exactly.
And I'll tell you this, guys. You all know we always try to as much as possible level with you guys with the truth. And if you've been following us and following the different broadcasts, we have said that one of the ways you're going to see them trying to get an edge is this whole system where the supernumerary SOPs are uploaded first, while the presiding officers are still tallying their votes, and even the I think it was the Commonwealth Mission as well as the EU had raised this at the Carter Center has raised this as a concern. What is the official tabulation? Is it what is uploaded to the site via the supernumerary ROs, or is it what the ROs will submit later on, having tabulated that? What is the official statement or declaration? As we said, we have noted GCOM has gone beyond saying that they are the only entity authorized to declare these results, and yet you're seeing a lot of projections over there and all of that. We still, as Chris said, there's still counts happening in a lot of places, even for when we told in Region 10. So it's very, very interesting what is happening. Let's take some of what the presidential candidate for Partnership for National Unity said earlier in the day, and then when we come back on the other side, we're going to delve into some of these issues.
Supporters of a Partnership for National Unity. As presidential candidate, I want to say thank you for supporting the APNU. I believe we fought a good fight. I believe that our supporters didn't turn out in the way we expected. But in the circumstance, I think we have done well. We are tabulating. Our statement of polls should be ready shortly. We do see a path to victory once we can maintain the present trend in Region 4, though we suffer losses in Region 10. I should also point out that we have improved on the East Coast, Georgetown, and we have improved in the quarantine. And so we see a pathway to victory. We ask you not to be carried away by rumors and false statements of poll. Let us wait on the official declaration. We will stay on top of it to ensure that there are no irregularities. Once again, thank you. We enjoy your loyalty. We're thankful for it. And we will analyze the situation and strategize on how we move forward.
Right, that was, of course, presidential candidate of the APNU, Mr. Aubrey Norton, speaking to you early in the day, giving you the first update brief. And of course, we are here this evening, as we will be throughout the night, continuing to bring you information. For those of you just joining us, we are bringing the results of the 2025 general and regional elections. And of course, we are responding to misinformation, fake information that is being published there. And stress to you again, as we speak, as we are here now speaking with you, the Ghana Elections Commission, which is the duly authorized authority to make any pronouncement, are currently tabulating results from South Georgetown. There is still North Georgetown, there is still the East Bank of Demerara and East Coast to be tabulated. And therefore, after that process is completed by the Ghana Elections Commission, then and then only you can get a result as it relates specifically to region number 4.
Yeah, and some of the other things that we've heard throughout the day just boggles the mind. As I said, the RO statements are being uploaded, and then you have tabulation still happening in large swaths. And so when a person's asked to see the SOPs and all of that, they definitely are not going to correspond because they might not even be available currently. But I wanted to pick your brain on some of these issues as well. Now, we want to level with you guys, as we've always done over the years. Win as a factor in these elections have performed better than expected. And that is the reality of it. Win has performed better than expected. If you look at what Win was able to do in Region 7, for instance, Upper Mazaruni, the PPP has controlled the purse strings in Region 7 and in lots of other hinterland locations, what they've been able to do in Region 1 and Region 8, for instance. That is the only surge that we see in this election. Some of what they've been able to do in Region 10 as well. That is the only surge we've seen in this election. And it boggles the mind to see the PPP now claiming that they have doubled their votes from 2020 in Region 4.
The maths and maths.
Right. The maths is just not matching. The PPP cannot show in the electoral map that they have surged in any other region to that extent.
Correct.
As a matter of fact, the figures show that they have lost support in Region 3.
That's right.
Which is a stronghold for the PPP.
Mm-hmm.
They are down by maybe 4,000 votes from the 2020 figures.
Yeah.
So they have not even surged in regions that are their strongholds.
Yeah.
And you want us to believe that in Region 4, just in a matter of hours, you are suggesting that you have doubled what you did the previous year, and there is no suggestion from any other part of the electorate in the other 7 regions that there has been any surge for the PPP. As a matter of fact, the PPP is saying it's because of their Region 4 huge win, they've been able to run up whatever vote count to push them over the margin for victory. Now, that is an incredible feat. When, for instance, the APNU has been able to hold on to Georgetown, as Chris has said, and with a very good lead in Georgetown.
Correct.
And has picked up support on the East Coast.
And quarantine
on the East Coast, we have never, the APNU has never won Graham's Hall area, that catchment that votes at Graham's Hall Primary School on the East Coast. We won that catchment there convincingly. And some other interesting inroads on the East Coast, on the East Bank. So where is PPP drawing these numbers that they're claiming to be drawing when they are presiding officers and other persons who are still engaged in tabulation?
That's right.
In the official tabulation? And here we have a very, very reprehensible act of the incumbent administration talking about projections and who is the new opposition and clearly who is the new government in their minds. And then we're hearing that there's going to be a secret swearing in later on this evening, as they want to do. And we hope that the international community is taking note of all of this. And we reject this. We reject this because, as we have said, notwithstanding the loss we have suffered in Region 10, there is a clear path to victory in Region 4, and especially given our gains in the national capital city, Georgetown. Christopher.
No, I agree with you. So forgive me, because the information as we are here is still coming through, and as you rightfully pointed out. Now, let me just give you some example. For example, in Georgetown specifically, South Georgetown, in 19 polling station in which I manned between that period. In the 19 polling stations in a specific part in South Georgetown, the APNU has won all 19 stations. Same report that you're getting for our electoral district, this would be constituency 12. So in constituency 12, where you had, in one case, 19 polling stations, the APNU has won all 19. Where the People's Progressive Party Civic normally will pick up a few votes, where there's a 27 and so forth, in none of those stations the PPP passed 7. They read either 7, 5, 2, 1. That's how to set in. And specifically as it relates to those 19 polling stations, which are housed in 5 buildings. So this is speaking specifically to the St. Christopher Nursery School, Tocqueville Primary School, Turning Point, Standard Christian Academy. People in Guyok will know it as Fuzzy Shop, and Lamaha Park at Lancelot Residence. Those were the 5 building, and they housed 19 polling stations in total. The APNU won all of those. In constituency 13 and 14 all the way to 15, it repeated itself. The APNU won the majority, well, not the majority, approximately 90% of all of the polling stations. And second to that, the political party that came, but not close, but got the second most vote was WIN. The People's Progressive Party Civic remained with the 11, 7, and so forth. And this is just one section of South Georgetown. Still have to give account for places like Albistown, Working Ross, and so on. And then, of course, takes you over now to North Georgetown, the Albertown, the Queenstown, Kingston area, and so forth. Those are areas that are still being tabulated and still being accounted for. And in those areas, preliminary report indicate that the PPP did not win those areas. The toss-up is between the APNU and WIN, not the PPP. Yeah. And this is not given account for the East Bank of Demerara nor the East Coast of Demerara. And that's why we continue to stress the people out there. GCOM has the information. Now, we are aware, previous months leading up to this election, there have always been talk by the PPP that what they will do is immediately do a media blast. Oh, we won, the PPP won the election, and shortly thereafter, a swearing in. We knew this months ago, that this is the plan if the election doesn't go their way. So we continue to urge all and sundry to await the information from the Ghana Elections Commission, which is the only authority that could make pronouncement. Second to that, as we mentioned before, no political party will be allowed, whether it is the incumbent or whichever, to make not a declaration, but to be sworn in and believe that the rest of us will just sit back and accept it. This has been uttered not only by the presidential candidate of the APNU, but several executive members. And we remain resolute in that position, that until and unless the Ghana Elections Commission makes an official declaration of the results, no political party or no presidential candidate will be allowed to be sworn in as the next president of Ghana.
Yeah. Again, folks, we would like you to consider that it makes no sense. Again, WIN has performed exceptionally well as a new political entity, and one recognizes that. And if there's any surge, WIN was able to do that. These elections have been met with very historically low turnouts. And where that has happened, WIN has made inroads in where where voting has happened. For instance, in Region 7, in almost all the traditional areas that vote for the PPP has gone to WIN.
Exactly.
Jawala, Waramadang, Parima, all of that has gone to WIN. In Region 10, they have gone with Ibini, they have gone with Kokwani, they have gone with some of those other of the sub-regions location. In Linden of itself, WIN was able to make inroads. The PPP cannot show that. The PPP cannot show on the electoral map where they have made any inroads with this surge amid this historically low voted turnout nationally. And to say that Region 4 somehow they were able, not WIN, making this huge inroads as they've made in lots of the other regions, but the PPP suddenly making this huge surge in Region 4 to the extent where they have doubled their votes from 2020, when if you look at what they're doing in Region 1, they are not winning by any huge majority.
Exactly.
In Region 1. They're not winning by any huge majority in Region 2, when it has made inroads in those areas that are PPP territory. Region 3 as well. As I said, they've done poorly in Region 3 in comparison to how they've done in 2020. So where is this surge
Exactly.
for the PPP nationally that will be consistent to this huge surge that it would love us to believe has happened in Region 4? It just is not there. And as my colleague Christopher Jones says, it will not be allowed that any swearing in is going to happen. It's just not going to happen.
Exactly. So we continue to wait those information as they continue to come in. As did mention earlier, for those who just joined the program, there are some issues at the Ghana Elections Commission. Our chief scrutineer has been contacted by GCOM, in which GCOM has indicated to her that several mistakes have been made in several polling stations by their presiding officers. And as a result, they requested her to be present at GCOM to see how they will be able to rectify those. If it requires them to go back into the box, which cannot just be done. You can't just open a box and check back. We had this encounter at the last election on. You had this whole legislation that was put in place and so forth. So that is the situation. So GCOM has acknowledged that several mistakes have been made by their presiding officers. And the only way, obviously, you can correct a mistake is that you have to go back into the boxes. But our chief scrutineer, Ms. Carol Joseph, and several lawyers, they are now at GCOM and they're working that out. And of course, as that information comes, we will be sharing that with you. Now, these mistakes could have been predicted because we saw GCOM had the devil's job of finding people to work on elections day as presiding officers and so forth. And in a lot of the stations, like the ones that I ever had to deal with on elections day, we've had several issues. For example, at the close of poll, when GCOM would have completed their work, we had issues for the POs to give copies of the statement of poll to our agent along with the other political parties. You had two polling stations upstairs. They were providing the statement of polls, while the other presiding officers in other stations downstairs didn't know that they had to give it over. Another thing is that each party agent in those stations were given a voters list, a tally sheet for the count and so forth, and that is the information that they were taking off. Sherrod Duncan and that person would take it off and you make notes. If Sherrod Duncan voted with a passport, if he voted with an ID card, if there was an oath had to be administered, if somebody voted via proxy, all of that information, the various political parties' agents in those stations would have been taking those information and making their copious notes. At the end, at the close of poll, those presiding officers then collected from them those very documentation that you would need for any queries that is had. Mind you, every single officer in the station has a copy of the voters list. So, but when they take away those from the agents, it renders any queries or objections that you have useless. After we made the objections, I think the presiding officer the officer that was in charge of specifically Tocqueville Primary School, Miss Marcus, after her intervention, those documentation were given back to the various political parties' agent. Had we not intervened, those documentation would have been taken away from them. And that is just an indication, and that is just a sample of the indication of the issues that we had with presiding officers who were literally hired a mere, in some cases, 2 and 3 days before the elections. So they weren't privy to the actual training. We don't know how astute they were as it relates to the training manual. So that happened across the country. So those are, well, they say now the chicken has come home to roost. Now we're seeing some of those problems. And as indicated, GCOM has reached out to our chief scrutineer, indicating to her that several mistakes have been uncovered, and they're trying to figure out now how they can work that out. But again, the Ghana Elections Commission has not released any official results of the elections as overall and specifically as it relates to region number 4. All of the information that we've seen thus far is nothing more than the People's Progressive Party civic propaganda and media house aligned to the PPP. So we urge you to continue to wait to hear from the Ghana Elections Commission, and even us here can say to you that this is the result. We will share with you the results that we have. And of course, this information has to be concurred by the Ghana Elections Commission. So in this case, the Ghana Elections Commission will put out their information and we will be able to concur with that information from GCOM.
Correct. And with that, folks, one of the main takeaways from this update is that there remains a very, very clear path to victory for the APNU coalition, folks. A very, very, very clear path. We are very, very upbeat about that, very, very optimistic about that. A very, very, extremely, very clear path remains for the APNU to form the next government. And as we said, as Christopher has reiterated several times during our broadcast, we await the final results from GCOM, the actual tabulation from GCOM in this process. And as we wrap up this update, we are going to be back before the night is out with another update for you guys. But let us take this opportunity to say thanks to the thousands of you who stood in line on Monday's historic elections in this country and cast your vote for the APNU coalition, for the thousands of you who voted, period, and lent yourself to this democratic process and to this democratic renewal. Again, we believe very strongly that the APNU coalition has a very, very clear path, a very, very viable path to victory and to forming the next government.
Excellent. All right. So look forward to seeing you again in a couple of hours. And if any information breaking or not, we will be back on air to further update you. On behalf of my colleague, Sherry Duncan, this has been a quick APNU elections update. Look forward to seeing you again in a couple hours, minutes, thereabout.